It's a joy for us to be part of the symposium team this afternoon. Before I start, I want to say thank you so much to the symposium leadership for allowing Africa Focus stream. Maybe just an overview of who we are in terms of vision and what are our sessions for this year. Africa Focus team stands on a vision that is summarized as follows: knowing our continent deeper in order to serve it better theologically. Knowing our continent deeper in order to serve it better theologically. So this new stream at our symposium, maybe on Fridays, has the aim of bridging the gulf between praxis and theory, faith and life, the church and seminary. So the gap between African Christian real issues and scholarship must be filled up. Through this new stream, the SATS academic community will be exposed to contextual African challenges that require relevant theological reflection and engagement. Key African church figures and Christian practitioners will be sharing their experiences on matters affecting our continent with the aim of motivating SATS students and academics to serve Africa through their various theological reflections and endeavors. So for this year, 2021, we have 4 sessions that are scheduled. The first session is known as Know Your African Continent. The second, Meet Your African Bishops. The third, Questions from the Church in Africa. And the last one, Here is Your African Scholar. So for today's session, various presenters will be talking or presenting to us the 5 regions of our continent: the northern region, the southern region, the eastern region, the western region, as well as the Central African region. So it's an exciting time for us as Africans at SATS, and we are delighted to present our continent today. Let's pray. Father God, we thank you because you love us, you love Africa, and here is an opportunity that you have given us to talk about this continent. Lord, you have positioned us strategically on the continent as a seminary to serve the church that is growing, the church that is making impact in the world. Lord, even today, as various presenters will be talking and presenting the various regions that they are representing, Lord, we ask for your help. We ask for the anointing of the Holy Spirit to rest upon us. We bless the symposium team and everything that will be following, even as we continue our meeting today. We pray also for technology, that Lord would serve us better. To the glory of the name of Jesus Christ, we pray. Amen. Over to you, Dr. Koniga.
Amen. Thank you so much, Dr. Kipimo, for whetting our appetites, not just for today, but for all of the other sessions to come as well. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce the first speaker. The first speaker is Dr. Batanayi Manyika. He is our academic dean at SATS, and he's going to be sharing about East African realities, or East Africa. And just some background, I'm going to do a brief bio. Since we have many speakers. He hails from Zimbabwe. He currently resides in France, and he recently completed his PhD in New Testament. He worked on the letter to Philemon, and he obtained his PhD from SATS. Dr. Manyika, we're excited to hear about East Africa, and I'll hand over to you now.
Well, greetings everyone, or should I say it in Swahili, mjana mwema kila mtu. Hope you're well, whichever part of the world you're joining us from. And today I have the privilege of speaking on East Africa. Now, East Africa, as shown in the screen there, it has got a few countries and they are shaded in orange. But more to this graphic over here. It is famous for some very fantastic geographical markers, inclusive of Kilimanjaro, the mountain, the highest mountain in on the African continent, also the Rift Valley, and it has got a rich history that has shaped the entire continent. There are some major political figures and major religious figures that have come or hail from this part of the world. And today I have a privilege of talking about some of these facts in this very, very exciting session. Moving on to this slide, allow it to load up. The first country I want to speak about is the Comores. Now, the Comores are located just northwest of Madagascar, so they are in the channel between the mainland African continent and the very big landmass of Madagascar. And the president is Azali Assoumani. They are Arabic in the languages they speak. They are Arabic, Comorian, and French. So the colonial history of the Comores is a complicated one, as seen in the lingua franca. So there is an Arabic influence which is so pervasive. My wife and I landed in the Comores on our way to Mayotte a few years ago, and I can testify to the strong Islamic influence in that part of the world. The population is less than 1 million, and because of their French heritage, they still use the franc, but it is the Comorian franc. Now, the colonial power was France, and the founding father was Ahmed Abdallah. Now, the Comores have been in a bit of tension with some other islands, or another island called Mayotte, and Mayotte is a French territory. And the Comores want Mayotte to come back into their family of islands because they regard them as part of the same family. There is a strong Islamic influence in Mayotte, and Christians in Mayotte are numbered just under 10%. Now, the drive for Islamization towards Mayotte is quite prolific, and there have been some political tensions and some immigration problems between our Comores and Mayotte. So there is a rich tapestry of history. There is a current geopolitical strain between the islands in the region and also France. So there is much to cover regarding the Comores. So if you have never heard of them, they are a very interesting group of islands that give a picture of French influence in the southern region of Africa. So allow me to move on to the next country that is worth profiling in the eastern region, and that is Djibouti. Now, the president of Djibouti is Ismail Omar Guelleh, and the languages spoken in Djibouti are many, but two of the prominent languages are Somali and Afar. So again, their proximity to Somalia make them somewhat related to Somalia, both geographically and linguistically. Now, again, because of the former colonial power, the currency that is used in Djibouti is the Djibouti franc. And as of 2019, according to the African Development Bank, the economic growth stood at 5.9 gross domestic product. So the GDP for Djibouti in 2019 was close to 6%. Concerning religion, Islam and African traditional religions are quite prolific. And it's interesting to note that even in Islam, this is very possible for people to syncretize with African traditional religions. And this is prevalent in the Christian world, as we know, and also in the Islamic world. Now, the population of Djibouti stands at 0.9 million, so just under 1 million, and the former colonial power was France. And the founding father of Djibouti was Hassan Guled Abdion. So these are the facts regarding Djibouti. It's a very small country, but it's quite strategic in its location in that it's close to the Horn of Africa, and many use that as a docking port as they enter the African mainland in the east. Now, the next country I would like to highlight is Ethiopia. Now, Ethiopia, as we know, has got a very long and very complex history. And the current president is actually not a president, but he's a head of a conglomerate of, or rather a conglomerate of people who have been given the responsibility of leading up the country as they transition towards democratic elections. And his name is Abiy Ahmed. And the languages, or some of the languages spoken in Ethiopia, are Amharic, Oromo, and Afar. Now, the currency is the birr, and economic growth of Ethiopia, measured by the African Development Bank in 2019, stood at 8.2%, which is actually above average for the region. Now, Ethiopia boasts a very rich history of piety, inclusive of the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, Christianity, and even Judaism. Now, if you know anything about Ethiopia and reggae music, you would have heard the name Haile Selassie, or the term Jah Rastafari. Ethiopia has been very much influential in reggae music because many thought of the Emperor Haile Selassie I as a messianic figure. And so Rastafarians venerate him as a messianic figure, and they call him the Lion of the tribe of Judah, you know. So because of that, there is this cross-Atlantic influence of Ethiopian ideology, should I say, in Jamaican reggae music. And this has prevailed even to this day. So Rastafarianism connects itself to Haile Selassie. Now, Haile Selassie was famous for his 1967 speech delivered at the UN, where the sentences until the philosophy which hold one man superior and another inferior is permanently and dismantled and abandoned, everywhere is war. Now, if you know those words, you would then know Bob Marley's tune, War. So I can hear some of you humming it in your heads, and those words were taken directly from the speech that Haile Selassie delivered at the UN in 1967. Now, Ethiopia boasts a population of 112 million people, which is double the size or double the number of the entire population in France, and one may say 10 times the number of people in Zimbabwe. And its former colonial power was actually Italy. So there is this tension between Italy and Ethiopia that is well documented going back years, and it exists interpersonally and in some relationships even today. There were a lot of conflicts dating back a few years that you can read about regarding this reality. But Ethiopia was not only a colonized country, but it also became a colonizer in the African context, and it's important that we note this about the country. Moving on to the next African country I would like to speak about in East Africa, it is Eritrea. And the capital is Asmara. President or current president is Isaias Afwerki. And the main language spoken is Tigrinya, and the currency is the Nakfa. Piety, again, is Christianity and Islam. So there is this split within the distribution of piety, and that we have Christianity and Islam represented as very strong Islamic influence there, and also a very strong evangelical influence in Eritrea. The population stands at 3.2 million, and unlike many countries in Africa, Eritrea was colonized by three different countries. The first one being Italy. Notice what I said earlier regarding Ethiopia. And then the British also colonized Eritrea and Ethiopia, and Eritrea fought a bitter war for so many years, and Ethiopia actually occupied Eritrea under Emperor Haile Selassie. And the founding father is Isaias Afwerki, still the president, founding president, and still founding father rather, and still the president of Eritrea. Moving on to the next country, famous country, well-established country, Kenya, capital Nairobi. Current president is Uhuru Kenyatta, also a child of Jomo Kenyatta, the founding father. So there is a lineage continuity there of sorts. And the main language spoken in Kenya is Swahili, and they use the Kenyan shilling, which again goes back to the colonial power, which was Britain. The economic growth of Kenya, as measured by the African Development Bank in 2019, stood at 6%, which is high performance based on comparable figures in the region. Now, the main faith in Kenya is Christianity, which stands around 85% according to the stats that I saw, and we do have some influence of Islam and also African traditional religions. The population stands at 52.7 million, which is comparative to France, and then the colonial power is Britain, was Britain rather. Now, Kenya rather is famous for its wildlife. It's famous for its very strong tourist industry. It's also famous for sporting feats and many other things. And so Kenya is a beacon that actually is shining a lot of hope within the region and beyond. Now, moving on to the next country, we will be looking at Madagascar, and capital is Antananarivo. I remember this from primary school because we used to open up the World Atlas and then sing out the capital cities to each other, and I found this one to be quite rhythmical. So Antananarivo is very easy to remember. Now, the president is Andry Rajoelina, and the languages spoken in Madagascar are Malagasy and French. I've had the privilege of meeting some Malagasy people, and they are the very kind-hearted and very gentle people from my experience. The currency is the Ariari, and the main religion in Madagascar is Christianity. The population stands at 26.97 million, and the colonial power was France. Now, Madagascar is an interesting country because it was not so much under the full domination of France at some point, but they had these ties with France. And the founding father actually studied in France, and his name France, and Philippe Siranana is the founding father. We know the film Madagascar, so I can hear some of you singing the song from Madagascar. I like to move it, and you can see the king and all those animals doing their fantastic moves. But that is not that Madagascar we are thinking about. This Madagascar is famous for its flora and fauna, and the biodiversity in Madagascar has helped scientific endeavor in many regards. Now, moving on to the next country, we are now looking at Mauritius. And the capital of Mauritius is Port Louis, and the president is Prithviraj Rupan. Languages in Mauritius are quite diverse. You have English, you have Creole, you have French, you even have Hindi in Mauritius. How do I know that? Is because my wife's parents are from Mauritius. The currency there is the rupee, and you have an influence of Hinduism, Christianity, and Islam. And so Mauritius is quite a strategic island because it stands in the train of Dutch East India trading. And so this was a very important island for those who were trading in the East. So from Cape Town to Mauritius to India, this was something of a halfway stop, if you want, for those traders. And so Mauritius was colonized by different people in its history. The Dutch once had a claim to Mauritius, the French once had a claim to Mauritius, and also the British. So this cosmopolitan reality of Mauritius is not only seen in its languages, but also in those who colonized it. The founding father was Sesiusaga Ramgulam. So these are the facts regarding Mauritius, and I hope they are helpful. Moving on to the next country, Rwanda, which has been at the forefront of the current renaissance of Africa in many regards. Capital is Kigali, and the president is Paul Kagame. He's regarded as one of the strong men of Africa. The language spoken is Kinyarwanda. I had a friend from Rwanda at Bible College, and he told me of what they suffered in the genocide. He spoke Kinyarwanda, and his story was quite heart-rending and heartbreaking in many ways. The currency in Rwanda is the franc, again, based on its history. The economic growth for Rwanda, again, very high as of 2019, a GDP of 7.8%. And Rwanda, with minor influences from ATR, stands as predominantly Christian. There are 12.6 million people in Rwanda, and it was colonized by Germany and Belgium. Now, this colonial effort actually affected the tribes in Rwanda in many regards, because one may argue that what the Germans and then later King Leopold did, again in the DRC and spilling over into Rwanda, affected Rwanda's very everyday relationships to the point of the genocide. So some people argue that the way they were colonized and how the people groups were affected is precipitated much later on in the genocide that is well documented. The founding father of Rwanda is Juvenal Habyarimana, and these are the facts regarding the country. Moving on to the next one, we are looking at the Seychelles, and the Seychelles capital is Victoria. I wonder why. And they were colonized by the French and then later on by the British. Like Mauritius, the Seychelles were like a halfway stop for traders who were moving towards the east. The currency of the Seychelles is the rupee, and they do speak Creole and English. Christianity and Hinduism, just like Mauritius, have an influence on the island, and the founding father was James Mansham. And now the population stands at a very small 0.09 million people, and these are the facts regarding the country. Now, my next country to look at is is Somalia, and the capital of Somalia is Mogadishu. And the current president is Mohamed Abdullahi Mohamed. The language spoken there, one of the main languages is Somali, and the currency is the Somali shilling. Somalia is predominantly Islamic, and the population is at 15 million. Now, again, like Ethiopia and like Eritrea, there is an Italian influence on Somalia, and this Italian influence affected those groups of countries in a distinct way. They were colonized by both the Italians and the British, and the founding father is Abdullahi Isa. Now, moving on to the next country, and that is South Sudan. Now, South Sudan is led by Salva Kiir Mayardit, and the languages spoken there are quite many, but the main ones are Dinka, Niue, Bari, Zande. And the president is Salva Kiir Mayardit, as I said earlier, and the currency is the South Sudanese pound. We have a lot of African traditional religion influences in South Sudan, but Christianity does have a footprint, and so does Islam. Now, the region between South Sudan, Egypt, that kind of region has got a lot of tension because there was a separation of the people groups. Those were of Arabic descent and those were of Black African descent were separated by the colonial powers, creating a lot of social tensions. And I often speak about this when I'm watching Liverpool, because we've got two famous footballers from Africa who play for Liverpool. One is Senegalese, and the other one is Egyptian. And this kind of dynamic where Arabic separation from Black African people groups is quite pronounced in East Africa and in North Africa. Now, the colonial power is Britain, and the founding father was Abel Ali. Now, moving on to the next country, which is Sudan. and the capital of Sudan is Khartoum, and the president was Fatah al-Burhan. Like the other country I mentioned earlier, this is actually not the president, but it's a group of people who are leading the country for now. And at the head of that group is Fatah al-Burhan as they transition towards democratic elections. The language spoken there is Swahili among many, and the currency is the Ugandan shilling. The piety, we've got African traditional religions, we've got Christianity, we've got Coptic, Greek, Orthodox, and Islam. Population is a staggering 42.8 million, and the colonial power, actually, interestingly, is Turkish. So we've got an influence of the Ottoman Empire on African soil in Sudan, and then we have an Anglo-Egyptian influence on South Sudan. And this is quite important to note because the Brits worked with the Egyptians to colonize Sudan. And then the founding father is Ibrahim Aboud. Moving on to the next slide, Tanzania. The capital city is Dodoma. I know some people were thinking, where is Dar es Salaam? Dodoma. The president is Samia Suluhu Hassan, and the main language is Swahili. Shilling is their currency, and the economic growth as of 2019 measured by the African Development Bank stands at 6.6%. Again, a diversity of religions, Christianity, Islam, and African traditional religions, and the population is a staggering 58 million. And one may argue that this is due to the prolific trade routes that come through Tanzania. The colonial power was Britain, and the founding father is the highly esteemed Julius Nyerere. I was actually having a conversation with my mom about Julius Nyerere and how those, when they got their independence, many left the diaspora to go back to Tanzania to better opportunities than they had in their lands of exile. So that is Tanzania, and these are the facts regarding the country. The next country is Uganda. Kampala is the capital city. Sorry, and then the president is Yoweri Museveni, who has been in power for quite a long time. The language spoken in Uganda is Swahili, one of the main languages, and then the currency is the shilling, and the economic growth stood at 5.3% GDP. Recently, Uganda has had a bit of a renaissance regarding regarding people's celebration of faith. So Christianity has had a renaissance in Uganda, and there have been a lot of missionary endeavors into Uganda. I have a friend who worked on a program offered by Obama, who finally settled in Uganda to run a couple of programs, and he mentioned how there was a strong Christian presence in the country. Again, there is a diversity of religions in Uganda, Christianity being the main one, Islam and ATR being the others. The population stands at 42 million. The colonial power was Britain, and then the founding father is the highly celebrated Milton Obote. Now, Uganda, as we know, has got a dark history where when we remember the story of the one who dubbed himself as the conqueror of the British Empire, Idi Amin, and how he drove out a lot of Indians or people of Indian descent from Uganda, and these later settled in the UK and in other places. We do realize that there is a fracture in the history of the country, and that is a very dark time in the story of that country. Now we move on to the next country. We move on to the next slide, which is Know Your African Continent. And I like what the slide says there. My name is Nayi. So Batanayi Manyika is my name. It's been a privilege to walk you through some of the countries in East Africa. It's a beautiful part of the world, a lot of diversity, and it's got a rich history with the diverse people coming together in service of God, and also in participation of economic growth and in leading their own countries. So thank you for your time. I hope this is useful and that it will bless you as you reflect on how you can serve and love the African continent better. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Manyika, for that. And next on our menu, we have West Africa, and our speaker for this session is Dr. Seyram Amenyedzi. Many of you know her. She is a senior lecturer at SATS and an academic. She hails from and resides in Ghana, and she has a PhD in missiology from Stellenbosch University. Dr. Amenyedzi, if you could just turn on your camera, and then you are free to start. I see your slides have just appeared. Over to you.
Okay. Yo, matogbana mikata. Miawe zonlo. Well, that was my language, just to greet you and to say welcome to this presentation, if I may say. So today, I'm to introduce you to West Africa. And as you may see in the picture today, I'm really dressed traditionally, not too traditionally because I could go without the top. So I have my kente duku, that is the headgear. This is typically of my tribe. We have the famous Ashanti kente, that is what everybody knows. And then I have my ewe, also from our tribe, the ewe kente here. These are all beads made from Ghana. I usually don't do them, so I must admit that I'm very uncomfortable. And if you see my African print, we have the Edinkra symbols. So these are aphorisms, or I would say designs that have concepts in them, why sayings that are normally on artifacts, fabrics, and walls. They always tell very wonderful stories, just by way of introduction. Okay, I have one more thing here. You see, the African queens are normally fanned. In fact, they don't fan themselves. Just by the way. So I'll go quickly to my presentation of West Africa. So this is the geographical map of West Africa. And if you look at it, you would see that other countries are included that are not regarded as West African countries, but geographically, this is how West Africa looks like. So this is the political map of West Africa. So these are the countries I will run through soon. So do not worry about that. Here again, when you look at it from the African map, this is where West Africa is, and also these are our flags. In all, we have 16 countries in West Africa, but Britain, there is still a British. They call them possession. I don't know why they call it possession, but then this country is actually a British colony. Here in West Africa. In fact, I'm excited about this program because I got to know a lot of things about West Africa that I didn't know. So I didn't know about St. Helena. It's an island. So these are the lists of West African countries. That's the political, countries. So that when we say political, these are the countries that belong to the West African region according to the UN. Ivory Coast, so I have here the countries and their capital towns. So Ivory Coast, which is also known as Côte d'Ivoire, has Abidjan as the capital. So we have Accra as the capital for Ghana, where I come from and where I am engaging from. We have Bamako that is the capital city for Mali. We have Banjul, that is the capital city for the Gambia. Gambia is a very tiny country where I have lived a lot of my life. We have Bissau, which is also the capital for Guinea-Bissau. Guinea-Bissau is a country. So we have Conakry, which is also the capital for Guinea Conakry. So these two countries, because of the colonial masters, got divided. So they should be one actually. We have Cotonou, the capital for Benin. So Benin is the country here. We have also Niger, and the capital is Niamey. We have Senegal, the country here, and then we have Dakar as the capital city. So we have Freetown as the capital for Sierra Leone. We have Lagos, very famous, the very famous country in West Africa is Nigeria. I love Nigerians for one thing. Wherever I have gone to, of course, I find Ghanaians anywhere too, but wherever I've been to, I find a lot of Nigerians, and they are very, very, very business minded. So Lagos is the capital city for Nigeria, Lomé for Togo, and interestingly, Togo and Ghana, before the colonial masters, somewhere, somehow, some part of Ghana, where I come from, the Volta region was part of Togoland, so we called it the Transvoltal Togoland. And if you may hear in the news recently, there's a secessionist group trying to break away so that that side of Ghana becomes a whole country. Well, people are, I think that they are still investigating, and people are still behind bars for that. I come from the part of Ghana that share boundaries with Togo. So we have most of our relatives from Togo. We speak the same language, similar languages. And then Ouagadougou for Burkina Faso. Nouakchott, I tried mentioning it by video, but I think I still got, well, I'll try again. Is it Nouakchott for Mauritania? Forgive me if you know the right pronunciation and I didn't get it. Please forgive me. Then we have Monrovia for Liberia, and then we have Cape Verde. Okay, so the main union for West African states is the ECOWAS, which is the Economic Community of West African States. It's an economic union. It's also a political union. And the current president for the ECOWAS is Nana Akufo-Addo, who is the president of Ghana. And in fact, they have been planning for years, for a long time, to come up with one currency. And because of that, the EcoBank was birthed. EcoBank has been in existence, I think, if not about almost 2 decades now, but I'm not sure where the conversation about ECO is going now. You know, the issue was also about the CFA among the Francophone countries and all those things. So I don't know where they are with that. But then we still have the EcoBank, which is more a bank that is in all these African countries. So West Africa is divided into politically into 2 main, but for this purpose of this presentation, I've made it 3, depending on the colonial masters. So we have Francophone West Africa, Anglophone West Africa, or some would say British West Africa and French West Africa. And then I have added the Portuguese West Africa. We have 2 countries that were colonized by the Portuguese, and their main language is Portuguese. So of course, I couldn't have added them to any of these 2. So I created that. So for the purposes of this paper, I have 3, but mainly we have British West Africa and Francophone West Africa. So we have, these are the presidents, the countries and their presidents. So we have Senegal, Macky Sall, Mali, Bandao, Guinea Conakry, Alpha Conde, Islamic Republic of Mauritania, we have Mohamed Al-Ghazani. People, I must confess that I'm not very good at names, so sometimes I go and I listen, and I'm trying my very best to mention them. La Côte d'Ivoire, which is also Ivory Coast, Al-Hassan Dramani Ouattara, and then Burkina Faso, we have Roch Marc Christian Kabori, we have Togo, we have Fure Nyasingbe, we have Benin, Patrice Talon, and then Niger, we have Mamadou Issoufou. That is for the Francophone Africa. And in fact, another discovery I made this time, maybe I'm surprised I never noticed that we have more Francophone countries in West Africa than English countries. And yet, I'm surprised that we don't even try to speak French. I think those of us from the English, you know, when I say English, of course, we have our local languages, but English is our official language. I think we are very comfortable, so we don't tend to learn the French language. Yet, the French people always try to speak some English. I I did a little French in school though, but I can only greet. But I find the French people trying, and I'm always impressed. But then I got to realize that, in fact, they even are more. So why don't we? Would we like to study French? Well, it's a question now. I'm just asking personally and wondering why. Perhaps to my brothers and sisters. So I have tabulated my information about the countries. So I have Benin, Dahomey. Okay, so I have Benin, which was formerly known as Dahomey. Their population is 11.8 million. Their colonial masters were France, and they gained their independence in 1960. The founding father, Hubert Maga, and then their official language is French. Their currency is CFA. Christianity, I thought I would look at the percentages of the religion, especially in this context. I thought I have special interest in that. So Christianity, okay, so these are the percentages. I highlighted only Christianity and Islam mainly because though there are other religions, those ones are insignificant. However, there are some places that other religions actually dominate, and so that's I thought also highlighting that. So those countries, you see that it's not only Christianity and Islam, but those other other religions are also highlighted. So Benin has 48.5% Christians and 27.7 Muslims. We have Burkina Faso to 20.32 million, and their colonial masters, France, they were colonized by France. They also gained independence in 1960. Actually, 1960 was the year of independence for most of the African states. Ghana leading in 57. You know, Kwame Nkrumah, the great man, really fought for our independence. So you will see the 60s, the 50s, but mostly the 60s was a year of independence for most of the West African countries. So here, 7 August 1960 was the independence for Burkina Faso. We have, no, that is 8 August, sorry. We have Maurice Yemego, who was the founder. The official language is French. They also use CFA. 23.2% Christians and 60.5%. Yes, I like that. Whoever did that, thank you. Percent Islam. Okay, so I had a friend from Burkina Faso when I was doing my PhD. Very wonderful. They were Muslims, and yeah, we had very good relationship there. So Cote d'Ivoire, we have 25.72 million, of course, colonized by France, and then 7 August 60. So these two are very close together. In fact, 3 in the same month. 1960, they also gained independence. Then Felix Houbé, the French people forgive me, is it Boigny? He is the founder. Then we have the official language as French. They also use CFA or CFA, and they have 44% Christians, 37.2% Islam. So we also have Guinea Conakry. So Guinea Conakry also has 12.77, pardon me, I'm going to offload now because I'm feeling hot. 12.77 million population, and France, as their colonial masters, they have their independence in October, 2nd October 1958, just after Ghana. And then Ahmed Sékou Touré was their founder. Also, French is their official language. They use the Guinean franc, and then the percentages are also here. So we have Mali. Okay, so Guinea Conakry, you could see that the percentage for Islam is so high, 85%. We have Mali, over 19 million. I think I'm going to do it that way because I'm quite number blind. So over 19 million, that saves me. And then France was their colony of France. And then independence in September 1960. We have Modibo Keita as their founder. We have the official language as French. And then they use the Sefa as well. But what is intriguing here is that Mali also has 90% Islam. My excitement of this presentation is that I get to find out certain things I didn't pay attention to. Then we have Mauritania, 4.5, over 4.5 million population. France as well. And so all these countries were colonized by France. So I think I don't need to keep repeating. So their independence was in November 1960. And then their founder, Mokhtar Dada. We have Arabic and French. We have Mauritanian Uguya as their currency. And in fact, this is what we should note here. Almost 100% Islam. So that is for Mauritania. It's actually an Islamic republic. We have Niger here, over 23 million. Okay, France as well. So, okay, let's say all of them here are colonized by France. So I don't keep repeating. August 1960, we have Hamani Diarra. We have as the founding father. We have French still as the official language. And then they also use the CFA, Seyfa. 0.3% Christianity. So those are the things I wanted to highlight, the percentages, so that we know where there is the need for us to pray or mission. So they have 99.3% Christianity. Senegal, over 16 million, and also got their independence 1960. Leopold Sédar Senghor was the founder. They still speak French, CFA, just like the others. Most of the French countries also, they all use CFA. So they have 4.1, I know Senegal so well, 4.1 Christians, but they are mostly Catholics. And they have about 95, almost 96% Muslims. So Togo, we share border with Ghana. So they are also UN, they are under UN trusteeship, but still France. And then independence was in 1960, April. So we have Sylvanus Olympio as the founder. They speak French. CFA as their currency. And then the Christianity is 37%. Islam is 20%, but I wanted to highlight this. Voodooism, that's animism and voodoo, is 35.6%. And my people, even the Ghana people, because we share border, we are, my tribe typically are known for voodooism. So you go to my hometown, you see the gods. We literally sleep in the house with a room full of gods. And mine is not good at all because I come from a royal family from both sides. My mom's side, I'm a royal. My father's side, I'm a royal. So when you are a royal, then you really have to deal with the gods because they are everywhere. We have the royals' tools and everything to go with. Now I don't see that. I want to move to the next slide. Good. So we have Anglophone.
Sorry to interrupt you, Dr. Amenyedzi. Would it be fine for you to wrap up within the next 2 minutes? We just want to leave enough time for the next presenters.
Okay. So 2 minutes. Okay. So we have Anglophone West Africa. Okay. So one thing I didn't ask was how much time we had for each presentation. I'm sorry about that because I'm always time conscious. I didn't ask that one. Okay. So as you could see, we have, okay, let me do the highlights here. And we have Nana Akufo-Addo for Ghana. We have, okay, so now, Cornelia, I don't know which one is relevant now because I have only 2 minutes.
Perhaps if you could just highlight each slide, that would be helpful. Thanks.
Okay. So we have Anglophone West Africa. So we have these countries, and this is their certain presidents. Okay. And then, okay, so of course, British, so they are colonies, so they were all also colonized by Britain, yes. And then Liberia was actually formed for the returnee slaves, you know, from USA. So basically, they were a country that was formed, you know. So we wouldn't say that they existed and they were colonized, but then they actually were a country that you know, they formed for the slaves to resettle in Africa. And so these are our currencies as well. Okay. So we have Portuguese West Africa, and Portuguese West Africa, they have Cape Verde, and then okay, and then Guinea-Bissau. And these are also their details. Okay, so just to finish up, I thought I will just end up with this missions in Africa, in West Africa. The current highlight I wanted to highlight is that currently we have a lot of Pentecostalization going on, so that the Orthodox churches are also all even Pentecostalized. We have a lot of unreached people groups, so we should not miss that, because there are several churches in West Africa. Sometimes I think we are becoming complacent, but there are still unreached people groups in West Africa. If we note that there are countries that are even almost 100% Islam, and then Islam is a real challenge in the sub-region, will I say sub-region or region? We also have a lot of nominal Christianity. The new prophetic ministry ways is also a challenge in terms of mission. I'm highlighting this because I'm a missiologist, so we still need ceaseless prayers for our region, and then we have to make deliberate efforts. I'm going to my final slide now, briefly. Okay, so we still have these mission organizations in case you are considering missions in West Africa. And these are, some of them were international, but now they recruit Africans. Some of them are indigenous. So something to note. And I'm really sorry about the time, because I think I didn't ask what time I exactly I had. So pardon me for that. And I hope it was fair. I hope I was able to present what was needed. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Dr. Amenyedzi, and we appreciate you ending on that missiological note. I think it sets the scene for the conversations that we are yet to have on this topic. So our next speaker is Mr. Caswell Johannes Ntseno. He is a PhD candidate at UNISA, about to finish his PhD. He's from Bloemfontein, and he currently resides in Kempton Park, that is in Gauteng, South Africa, and he's the SATS Quality Assurance Manager, and he will be speaking on North Africa. Reverend Ntseno, we welcome you, and we look forward to what you're going to share with us.
Thank you, Dr. Van Deventer. It's a joy to be at SATS again this morning and present Africa. My Africa, and I call it My Africa because unless you belong from Africa or you belong to Africa, it becomes difficult to call it My Africa. But I hope when we're done here, each person who have joined us from anywhere else in the world will be able to speak as I speak, to say My Africa. And the sub-region that I present this afternoon is North Africa, and it includes Sudan, Egypt, Libya, Algeria, Morocco, and West Sahara. And as you may have seen in some slides, you'll see Mauritania's capital city featuring in my presentation, as there's arguments whether Mauritania is part of North Africa or West Africa. But be that as it may, I will run you through some of these slides, and I will try to wrap up in no time. Well, as you may see, the countries that I represent, or that I'm presenting for you this afternoon, are quite historic. In fact, many of them are part of history part of our Bible history. They are part of our Christian background. We cannot do Bible understanding without mentioning some of these countries. In fact, the book of Daniel refers to Egypt as the south. So it's a joke this morning that I'm presenting Egypt as north, but I guess it depends from where you are when you point the north or south. So you're seeing in your picture there the pyramids of Egypt and the oasis in Sahara. There's few things I want you to know before I give you some of the facts, such as my colleagues have given you. There's some facts about the sub-region, and such as Tunisia being called Afrique, which is exactly the same name for Africa, which the Romans gave it to it during the wars of Cateriana in the 264 BC. And the other thing that you have to know about Africa, or at least the Northern Africa part, is that the pharaonic civilization of ancient Egypt is one of the world's oldest and longest lasting civilization. And also, it's quite important for you to know that the Sahara Desert is the largest desert in the world and is bigger than the continent of the USA. And I think those facts should give you the space and the stature of how much we're talking about. I won't talk much about the economic activity there, but I think the picture you see there has so much to say. That's a former president, or rather one of the presidents of Ghana, with the late Colonel Gaddafi. And as many of you would have known what has happened to Libya, so some of these statistics are basically useless because Libya is now being run to the ground, so to speak. Hopefully they'll return soon. I'll skip that and we'll tell you about some of these facts that you need to know. So Africa is a large country, or rather a large continent. Forget what the map says, forget what they told you in the map. Africa is much larger than it looks, but it's been made to look smaller purposely. So Algeria with Algiers as its capital city, and then Egypt with Cairo as its capital city, and Libya, Tripoli, Morocco with Rabat, and Sudan with Khartoum, and Tunisia with Tunis, and West Sahara's capital is not Nakhotum, but it's El Ayoum. That was a mistake in typing. And as you can see, there's the currency, and there is the populations of them, with Algeria being at 43 million and Egypt at 102 million. I'll skip that, and hopefully you can get these later on. But I want to tell you something else regarding religion in this area. The statistics, I will not read them for you. And I want you to know I was very determined and very, I planned it, that I will not put the highest percentage in my slide as number one. Technically, I should have written Islam as the first here, but maybe because I'm a Christian, I therefore represent this area or Africa from a Christian point of view. And I've got a few things to read for you while you're looking at that slide. That it's important that everybody must know that when we talk about Christianity in Africa, that it's not a recent happening, nor is it a byproduct of colonization. It is, its roots are actually tracing far back as far as the apostles' days. And one will even argue during the birth of Jesus Christ himself, because he found himself in that North African area. And so it's important that someone must understand that the subsequent history of Christian presence in Africa through its centuries is like a trickling stream through the desert. Yet, God's providence never let it dry up. And in our days, it has become a great flood watering the whole continent. However, North Africa was its first recipient. And it's also important for you to note, as I alluded earlier, regarding the birth of Jesus Christ, that the modern Egyptian Christians are proud to trace back the origin of their faith to the very origins of Christianity itself. In fact, in Cairo, they venerate a church built over the place where the Holy Family supposedly dwelt during its first or its sojourning in Egypt. And while they were persecuted by Herod, who wanted to kill the baby. And to this day, there's a tradition that they still look after and they celebrate that the Holy Family actually did step their feet in Egypt. So despite the fact of that there's so many Islamic, or rather one must point at the fact that there was what you call Islamic revolution that happened in that area. But those are the statistics, but do not be fooled. There is a strong and a growing Christianity. Even at 1%, it is a growing percentage. And I'll move to the next slide, just simply to highlight to you that the current president, as they are given today, is of Algeria. I think one thing to mention for the sake of time is that Algeria's president is 75 years old, Egypt's president is 67 years old, Morocco's president is 65 years old, and Libya's president, or the current one, not Muammar Gaddafi, but the one who's holding on, is 62 years old. Sudan, 65 years old. Tunisia, 63 years old. Western Sahara, 72 years old. I hope you're getting the point I'm trying to highlight to you regarding Africa and its leadership, especially political leadership. And it's also important, I think, when coming to the last slide, I will tell you about their independence and when they got their independence. And I think that slide is this one. So the first slide, the first flag you see on your left, that is Algeria, and it was colonized by France, and they gained their independence on the 5th of July, 1962. And then the top one in the middle section is Egypt's flag, and they were colonized by the British, and they got their independence on 18th of June, 1953. And then next to it, it's Morocco, and it was colonized by France and Spain, by the way, and they got their independence in 1956, the 2nd of March. And below Egypt, you find Sudan, and also was colonized by British, and they got their independence in 1956, January the 1st. And next to Sudan is Libya. It was colonized by Italy, and they got their independence in 1951. But as you've heard what I told you about Libya, it is still a sad story to this day. And then Tunisia was also colonized by France. They got their independence on the 20th of March, 1956. And then the last one is Western Sahara, which was colonized by both Spain and France, and they got their independence in 1975. And as you can hear, from a South African perspective, these countries have long had their independence. And so that tells you the challenges that Africa has for us to still talk about the challenges we're talking about, be it missionally or be it economically, yet so long time they had their independence. I think on that note, I'll leave it there and let my next colleague take over. God bless you.
Thank you so much for that, Reverend Ntseno. Our next speaker is Dr. Jesse Kippimo, and he will be sharing on Central Africa. Now, just a bit about Dr. Kippimo. He is the SATS Honors Coordinator and Senior Lecturer. He has a doctorate in missiology from UNISA, and he hails from and currently resides in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Dr. Kippimo, over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Cornelia, and thank you to all the colleagues for their presentations. I would say karibu sana, Swahili bienvenue. So I'll be talking or sharing about Central African countries. As you may all know, the map before you gives all the names of the countries in Central Africa. So when you look at the map of Africa, so Central African countries are at the heart of Africa. And DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo, is really at the heart itself. I want to start my sharing with the first country. This is Cameroon. The capital city is Yaoundé. The current president is Paul Biya. Paul Biya has been the president for a long time, I think more than 30 years now. And in fact, when you look at him, even the strength to speak is almost gone. So French is the language. Of course, there are other languages or ethnic groups or tribes, about 279. The currency, franc CFA, that is from France. They were also colonized by France, as we'll see it later. Religion, Christianity, 53%, and then Islam, 46%, and also have African traditional religions. Population, 25 million. Colonized by Germans first, and then France, and also Britain. As you can see there, today Cameroon is divided into two groups. We have French-speaking Cameroon and the English-speaking region. I'm sure you are all aware of the battle or the war in Cameroon. Currently, the people in the English-speaking region, they want to also be independent and begin to run or to rule themselves. So that's the battle going on in Cameroon. The founding father is Ruben Umnyobe. That was the founding father. The second country I want to talk about is the Central African Republic. The capital city is Bangui. Current president Faustin Archange Touadéra. The language, or the official language there is French. As the main language, of course, they also have Sango. Currency, franc CFA. Let me just maybe tell you here that most countries in Central Africa have franc CFA as their currency because of the influence of French or France, who the French people colonized most of these countries and they left their mark. So the economy is somehow controlled by France. Religion, 76.4%, Christianity, and the rest of the people are shared between Islam and other faiths. Population, 4.7 million, colonized by France or French, Belgium, and Germans. Founding father for Central African Republic is David Dacko. The next country I want to talk about is Chad. We're very sad that the president has just been killed. N'Djamena is the capital city. Idriss Déby was the president, and he was also the president for this country for a long time. The language is French, Arabic, and other languages. Currency, as I said earlier on, it's franc CFA. Religion, Christianity has 38.5%. Majority are Muslims. Population, 15 million, colonized by France from 1900 up to 1960. Founding father, Francois Tobalebaye. The next country I want to talk about here is Congo. Maybe you may want to know that Congo and the Democratic Republic of Congo are the two closest countries in the world. We are only divided by the river, Congo River. So when you're in the capital city of Congo, that is Brazzaville, you can see the other capital city, Congo Kinshasa. So Kinshasa on the other side, and then Brazzaville on this side. So we share. Our border is just a river in between, Congo River. So the capital city is Brazzaville. The current president is Denis Sassou Nguesso. He has been the president since we are children. We are at primary school. So he has been the president maybe for more than 30 years. French is the official language. Franc CFA, the currency. The country is dominated by Christians, 89.7%, and others are African traditional religions. Population, 2.3 million, colonized by France. And then the founding father was Pierre Savorgane de Brazza. That's where the name Brazzaville comes from, actually, somehow. The next country also here we have the Democratic Republic of Congo, where I am. Our capital city is Kinshasa, now with close to 13 million people in the same city. Our current president is Felix Tshisekedi, and the language is French. Our currency here is Congolese franc. 92% of people belong to Christianity, and Muslims are also there. Population, yeah, the statistics here says 86 million, but the real statistic is about 100 million people. We are colonized by Belgians, got our independence in 1960. The founding father is Patrice Lumumba, the honored leader. Patrice Lumumba was killed by Belgians because of his authority and power. The next country I want to talk about here is Equatorial Guinea, the capital city Malabo, the president Theodore Obiang Guama Basogo. The official languages Spanish, French, and Portuguese. Again, the currency there is franc CFA. Religion, Christianity has 90%. Population, 1.3 million. And then the country was colonized by Spain. Founding father, Francisco Macia Guema. The next slide, I want to talk about Gabon. The capital city is Libreville. President Ali Bongo Ondimba is the son to the founding father here. Sorry, I don't know why the name is not appearing. The founding father was Ali Bongo, because that's the one who, from independence, who ran the country up to when he died, and then the son took over. Unless otherwise, I think that's the information we have. The language, official language is French. The currency, franc CFA, and then religion, Christianity again is in majority there, 79%. Population 2.1 million. France colonized this country. So that was the end of my presentation. There was a small country, or there is a small country in Central Africa called Sao Tome. I didn't present it yet, too small, but I wanted to focus on the major countries. Thank you. Over to you, Dr. Cornelia.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Dr. Kippimo. And for our final presentation, we are heading south. And let me just get that slide up. Our final speaker is Dr. Modisa Mzondi, also a colleague of ours at SATS. He hails from and resides in Mohlakeng in Gauteng province in South Africa. He is the MDiv coordinator and supervisor at SATS, and he has 2 doctorates, both from the University of Johannesburg, one in biblical studies and one in theology. Dr. Mzondi, we look forward to your presentation. You may start your camera and unmute your mic, and your slides will be handed to you, so you can just work through them on your side. Over to you.
Good afternoon, Sanbonani Molweni. Timatokwane Tobela. I was greeting you in some of the languages that we use here in South Africa, and one of them is common in the whole of South Africa, and others are common as well here in Southern Africa. And I'll be taking you through the last part of our huge continent, which is the southern part of Africa. My concentration will be on the 16 countries which are called Southern African Development Community, SADC. These countries were formerly known as the frontline states during the time of apartheid, because they had aligned themselves to work together towards the removal of colonial power in Southern Africa. And most of the colonial powers were from England, France, Germany, Belgium, and Portugal. And colonial languages in these countries were English, French, German, Belgian, and Portuguese. And as you can see from the map, these countries covers as far as the DRC, which has covered there, Tanzania, which was also covered in Eastern Africa. All of these countries constitute what we call Southern Africa. And my focus will be on few of these countries, I think 8 of them. Next slide, please. And as I said, all these 16 countries, I have chosen the following. Angola, which is by square meter, 1.2 million. Its population is 25,646,166. Botswana, which is 482,000 in size. The population is 2,002,224,904. Malawi, 118,804. That is the size of the country. The population is 13,077,160, followed by Mozambique, which is 801,590. Population is 20,252,223. Namibia, which is bigger than Mozambique, is 824,268. Its population is far less than Mozambique, is 2,104,900. Followed by South Africa with a area of 1.221,037, population is 56 million. Tanzania, which is already covered. Zambia, which is 752,612, 13,000 population, 046,508. Finally, Zimbabwe, it's in size 397,57, population 12,973,808. Next slide, please. And here are the flags of all the countries. I'm beginning with Angola, Botswana, Malawi, Mozambique, Namibia, South Africa, Tanzania, Zambia, and Zimbabwe. And you'll notice in all these flags, there is a common color of green, black, gold, which communicates the history of colonial power and independence in all of these countries. In terms of the founding fathers of these countries, I'm going to take them one by one and show you which currency they're using and what is their capital city. Beginning with Angola, the capital city is Rwanda. The founding father was Agostinho Neto. The current leader is Juas Lourenço. The country got independent in 1975. Its currency is the Kwanza, followed by Botswana. Its founding father is Seretse-Khama. The capital city is Gaborone. The current leader is Mokgweetsi Masisi. The country got independent in 1966. It uses Pula as its currency. Malawi capital city is Lilongwe. Kamuzu-Bada is the founding father. Current leader is Lazarus Chakwera. The country got independent in 1964. It uses Kwacha as its currency. Mozambique capital city Maputo. Founding father Samora Machel. Current leader Filipe Jacinto Nyusi. The country got independent in 1976. It uses the meticas as its currency. Namibia, with Windhoek as its capital city. The founding father in 1990, when the country got independent, was Sam Nojuma. Current leader is Hage Geingob. The next country, South Africa. Tshwane is its capital city. The founding father is Nelson Mandela. Current leader is Cyril Ramaphosa. The country got independent in 1994. It uses the rand as its currency. I'll skip Tanzania because it was addressed already. Then we move to Zambia. Founding father is Kenneth Kaunda. Current leader is Edgar Lungu. The country got independent in 1964. It uses the Kwacha, Zambian Kwacha. The last country is Zimbabwe with Harare as its capital city. Founding father, the famous Robert Mugabe. Current leader is Emmerson Mnangagwa. It uses the Zimbabwean rands as its currency and the US dollar. Continuing with the capital city and country on your left, in the middle, we look into languages and the spirituality of each country. Beginning with Angola. The country has not less than 46 languages. Popular languages or main languages are Chokwe, Congo, Kimbuti, Oshiwambe, and Ubumbu. Christianity is the dominating religion of the country, followed by ATR and others. Botswana has over 20 languages. Setswana and Sikalanga are the main languages, the same as Angola. Christianity, ATR, and others are the most dominant. Christianity is a dominant religion, followed by ATR and others. Malawi, over 16 languages, Chichewa, Yau, and Tumbuku are popular. The same Christianity in this country is dominant, followed by Islam and ATR and others. Mozambique has over 43 languages. Makua, Ndau, Jonga, Chopi, Swahili, and Twaronga are the common languages and official languages. Christianity is almost dominant, followed by ATR and other religions. We move to Namibia. It has got over 30 languages classified into Oshiwambo, Uchirere, Kavongo, and Khoisan. In this country as well, Christianity dominates, followed by ATR and other religions. This is the last of my slides with the 4 countries. We have South Africa. It has got over 11 languages classified into Nguni, Afrikaans, Sotho, and the Tsonga Venda. Christianity dominates, followed by Islam, ATR, and other religions. I skip Tanzania. To Zambia, we have over 72 languages. Popular is Bemba, Nyanja, Lozi, Luvengo, Tonga, Lunda, and Konde. In the same as other countries, as we've seen in Southern Africa, Christianity dominates, It is followed by ATR and other religions in Zambia. Lastly, we have Zimbabwe, over 16 languages spoken in this country. Dominant languages are Shona, Ndebele, Tswana, Kalanga, Venda, Tonga, and Ndau. Christianity continues to dominate in this country. It is followed by ATR and other sites. So this is all about the history of all the 16 countries, and I've looked into 8 of them, looking into what is the country, the capital city, language, spirituality, founding fathers, current leaders, the year of independence, and the currency used. Thank you very much.
We thank you, Dr. Mzondi, for sharing a bit about the Southern African developmental community or development community. And I want to thank all 5 of our speakers. I know that we were pushing for time a bit, but thank you so much for your preparation and just for giving us something of the tip of the iceberg of this beautiful continent of ours.